Today's a bit of a change of pace for me. Today I want to take you through how I customised my PlayStation 5 controller to match the things that are already on my desk using parts that I've sourced from the internet. Welcome back to another episode of STU'S Reviews. Before we dive in, guys, I'm trying to hit my goal of getting 500 likes every single video I upload. So if you can help out, I would massively appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up. Seriously, I'd appreciate it and I will love you forever. Now, the PS5 was released and it is one of the most controversial looking consoles that has been released in a very long time, and unarguably it sticks out like a sore thumb, whether you like it or you hate it. Now, you will find out what I actually think about it very, very soon in a review. There's a bit of a reason why it's delayed, but stay with me and you'll see that review. But anyway, the colour for me just didn't match anything that I have in my house, and especially in my studio. You know me, I like greys, I like greens, I like blacks. This is pretty much the exact opposite of that. It's got a bit of black in it, but it's white, and I don't really like white tech that much. So for me, I wanted to change this. Now, when it originally came out, there wasn't much available in terms of customization. A few cheap Chinese silicone covers were available, which I didn't really like, and then you started to get replacement sort of bottom bits here that you can change to whatever colour you like. Now, that was a great start, but still, I thought, okay, well, I could change it to a green bottom, but green and white, that looks a bit rubbish. But that was it. There was nothing else I could do. Until now. All of a sudden, there's been a huge influx of parts directly from China that you can use to customize your PlayStation controller. Now, obviously, these aren't OEM products. These are manufactured by third parties. So naturally, I thought, sod it, let's give it a go. Let's order some and see exactly how easy it is to tear apart your controller and change it to something that matches a color scheme that you actually want, and not this hideous white thing. Now, once the parts arrived, it was time for me to get stuck in and customize this controller. This is actually a second controller, for those of you wondering. This isn't the final piece, and you'll see that in just a moment. Now, the concept that I came up with was this. This is what I was aiming for. Something grey, and I even come up with a black option, but with a bit of a green hint to it, very much like my keyboard at the moment. Now, I'm not the most savvy person when it comes to disassembling electronics and putting it back together, but I will say, for those of you that have never done this before, it is actually a pretty straightforward process, and it wasn't too difficult. Most of it is like Lego. There is one bit that's a little bit tricky, and I'll get onto that very, very shortly, but it should be pretty simple for even the most idiotic of us, which is probably me. So use me as a ground level, and if you're more intelligent than me, then you'll probably be able to do it. Let's get stuck in. First thing is to remove the black bottom piece. Using a pry tool, you can pop out the corners first. It's important to use a proper pry tool here, as the plastic can get damaged otherwise. These cost a tuppence, so just get one ordered from somewhere like eBay. Once both sides are popped out, you can then pull the whole plate out, popping the clips up on the sides until it comes right out. Eagle-eyed people here will notice there's actually a set of Xbox thumbsticks here. That's from an earlier experiment. With the old DualShock controller, you could replace the thumbsticks to Xbox ones without any modification. I can confirm that this is not the case on the DualSense. They appear to be a fraction too tight. Underneath the corners are now two screws that need to be removed. Take your pry tool now and simply pop it behind the middle of the shoulder buttons and pop them out. Just not quite as vigorously as I did. There are two more screws underneath this that we need to remove. Next, using your tool, unclip two pieces of plastic at the base near the audio output. This should then allow you to pry the whole back of the shell away. Disconnect the battery by pulling the white plug out of the right hand side of the board. Obviously don't remove the entire terminal, that would be stupid, just pull the battery out. Now this reveals a screw in the centre that needs to be removed. The ribbon cables are next. These can be a bit fiddly, so it helps if you have some needle nose pliers. There's one at the bottom for the mic and one on each side for the haptics and one at the top for the touchpad. Using the needle nose pliers, simply grab the orange harder plastic tab attached to these ribbon cables and give them a gentle tug, but be careful not to tug too hard as to damage the cable. Once these are removed, there's another screw on each side just above the haptic motors that needs to be removed. Then we pull the board forward and remove the last 2 screws underneath this. Once these screws are out, you can then remove the entire board, haptics and trigger assembly straight out of the shell. You can remove the thumbsticks now if you want to by simply giving them a firm tug that would make my OnlyFans proud. Now I'm replacing these back to the original DualSense thumbsticks, which just simply push back into the stalks that you reveal by removing the old ones. Next, remove the option and capture buttons from the front shell and then pull the touchpad out. The whole assembly should move out backwards. We'll come back to this a little bit later, so put that to one side. For now, prepare your new shell. Remove the rubber from the old shell and place your new D-pad in the new shell, placing the rubber we just removed over the back of the new D-pad in the new shell, using the 4 little mounts to align. Next, repeat for the buttons. Simply remove the rubber and then remove the buttons themselves. At this point, I find it helps to lay the buttons out exactly how they came out, especially if you're going to use replacement buttons with no symbols like mine. Remove the central thicker piece of rubber from between the buttons in the old shell, placing it in the new shell, then match up the buttons and pop them in, placing the rubber in behind once you've got them in the correct positions. Same again with the PS button. Remove the rubber back, remove the button and replace into the new shell. Now for the tricky bit that simply requires a bit of patience, but I can confirm that this particular part was designed by the Dark Lord himself. Unscrew the final screws on the touchpad to remove the black mount. This reveals that the board has actually been glued to the white front. Using your pry tool or something similar, start to cut away at the glue around the edge until you can pry it off. Take your time with this not to bend or damage the board. Be gentle but firm. Be soft but hard. Float like a butterfly. You get the picture. Once this is done, the board should still have some stickiness to it, so immediately take your new touchpad and push it to stick it in place. And now we do everything in reverse to put it back together. Mount the touchpad back into the black housing using the 2 screw mounts, push this into the new shell from the back. Replace the option and capture buttons, and there's only one way that these can possibly fit, so you shouldn't find that too hard. Now replace the whole trigger, haptic and board assembly back into the controller, but be careful not to trap the touchpad ribbon cable underneath, as you'll need to access this in a moment. Pop the 2 screws back into the assembly to hold it to the shell. Next we want the mic from the old shell, which is a ribbon cable still in the bottom of it. Remove it and reinsert it in the same way it was in the old shell. This is a bit fiddly as well, but it just takes a bit of patience. Once that's all together and the board is back in place, replace the 3 screws, 1 in the middle and 1 at either side just above the haptics. Next, replace the ribbon cables, again using the needle nose pliers to grab hold of the hard plastic tabs to really help push it back in. Make sure you place all of them back in their original places, otherwise something won't work. Pop the battery back in, connecting it back to the white terminal at the top right hand side of the board, using the little black piece of plastic in the battery mount to manage the small cables. Now if we look at the old shell, there's a piece of foam where the battery is on the rear case. This is to hold the battery in place. Now rather than trying to pull this off, I simply used a bit of foam that I had lying around, cutting it into shape and sticking it into place on the new shell, the same as the old shell. Don't forget this, otherwise it will rattle round more than my 25-year-old camper van. Pop the rear shell back on, screwing in the 4 screws we removed originally, 2 in the corners and 2 underneath the shoulder buttons. Pop the shoulder buttons back in and then pop your chin plate back in, inserting it at a slight angle and push it together nice and tight until the clips all click. And you're done! So let's have a look at what I've created. I know I don't post this type of content very often, but it feels like I needed to. There's something to say about personalising your gear to match the aesthetic that you want, rather than just accepting the one that you're given. There's a sense of satisfaction in it. Now I know mine might not be to everybody's tastes, but it's unique to me, and that is what ultimately counts. In today's world where everyone is vying for attention online, individuality is paramount, and this is just one way that you can build individuality into your setup, and so I wanted to share this process with you guys in the hope that it will help you out. You may be watching this thinking, I'd love to give that a go, but it's bound to go wrong. Well, all I can say is that don't think about what might go wrong and instead think about what might go right. You'll end up getting a controller that's unique to you, and besides, you'll be surprised how easy it is. Now, there are still a limited number of colours available for options on the PS5 customization, and that is because these parts are only just starting to come in. But if you do decide to make your own controller, I would love to see a picture of it. So tag me, STU'S Reviews UK, I'll retweet it over on Twitter if you tag me in it. I would love to see it because I don't know if I've got taste. You let me know. Do you like the look of that? Does it look good? I like it, that's all that counts. But I want to see what you've made. And actually, these things come as just a shell. So for those of you that are adept hand at painting, probably can do a lot more with these than I can. If you are interested in customizing your controller and you want to find out where I got the parts, I'll leave a link in the description below for you. And if you want to see the controller in action, I will be streaming Warzone over on my Twitch at some point in the future. Won't be too long. I'm changing studio at the moment to be a bit more streaming friendly and less babies crying in the background. So if you are interested in seeing me on Twitch, follow me over on there. I'll leave a link in the description to that. Other than that, guys, thanks for joining. And if you enjoyed today's change of pace, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Also, again, like I said at the very beginning, if you did enjoy today's video, please help me out and hit that thumbs up because I'm trying to hit 500 likes on this video. Hit that subscribe if you're new, hit that notification bell if you want to see more STU'S Reviews, and I will see you back for another episode of STU'S Reviews soon.